Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Today, the flow with Shadowfox and Lee Two Hawks, and we are going to be resolving the veil of discontent. I would like to welcome our two hosts. Hello, hello, hello. How are you today?
We're good.
Let her answer for me, okay? There we go.
I'm sorry, guys. We were in the green room, before this started, and I'm sitting in the middle between these two guys, and let me tell you, they just rank. They have a riot, A lot of laughter, a lot of fun. So it's kind of like, okay,
Yes.
here's here. But yeah, no, this is really going to be kind of neat because as we were going through and listening to the intro for the show, Lee Two Hawks had written, what was it? What world?
Do you build your edifice?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and so the Oedipus of life,
Yeah.
and so in essence, it's kind of gonna like a little bit of a wrap up because it's all within the same means, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
And so really the topic, as far as resolving the veil of discontent, we're going to be speaking a little bit about how we live in this mundane world, and how different things can affect us, and how do we choose, or what could we choose. Many times, and we've been in spaces, many different spaces, and everybody's concerned about this or concerned about that, whether it be, through medical devices, whether it be through political or governmental. And I mean, across the board, this is like worldwide. Um, where are we placing our focus? There's a law of reciprocity, and it's what you send out comes back to you, and usually it comes back tenfold. Okay, um, if we are placing our focus and say we're looking at creating or manifesting, whether it be something in our individual lives, whether it be for our community, whether it be for a business, our government, or the world, it makes no difference. That creative or co-creative mechanism, because our thoughts are energy, our emotions are energy. And so where are we placing it? If we are constantly on this barrage of this irritation because this government's doing this, or they're holding us down here, or this, that, and everything else, okay, where's the focus? Right? That is, so all as you're doing is giving more energy to that which is irritating you. Where's the change? Where's a resolution? Where's a solution in there? There's an aspect of when we are creating or manifesting to actually focus within that realm, okay, seeing it transpiring and so on and so forth. Um, Creating movement in it is a great way to bring those things that you do like into fruition. But when we are so integrated and our minds are just completely wrapped around all those things that truly irritate us, that are discordant, then please wake up, because then all you're doing is you're creating it like a rock, and it's just so much harder to get over and through. Everything from those people who are in power and they're controlling us and everything else. The moment you step into that and you play that game, you have just given your power away.
And that gives the term discontent.
Exactly. So go for it. So in a nutshell, that's sorry. So in a nutshell, that's what we're going to be kind of bringing forward a little bit. Um, why is it so? How is it so? And recognizing that emotional component. And we've spoken about
Oh,
this.
you got a little far away from the mic. I can't hear you. It's kind of garbled.
Is that better?
Yep, yep.
Okay. So just recognize that we do get triggered, we do get impulsed by the energies that are around us. So you can recognize when you're getting triggered and stepping into it. You may join a space, you may join a group in some capacity, and they're talking about this stuff, and then it's like, yeah, yeah, rah rah, sis kumbah, and you're right there, and you jump into it, and it's like, seriously consider what is the cost of doing that to yourself, to your fellow human being. Again, the emotional component is going to be a big one that we're going to really talk about, and a little bit of stoicism all in the mix. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Now that was just a first take, so now he can go. See?
Hi, my name is Lee Two Hawks. Thank you. And I'd like to get a clear definition of what we're talking about. And she did a great job on that aspect. But the term veil, the EIL, not VALE, uh, is that which covers things up, that which one can become hidden behind. In other words, you're not able to fully express the genuine self that maybe is developed or yet undeveloped. So it's a coverage. Now, what happens? We have these invisible wires, puppetry, if you like, of things globally that come forth and attach to us that influence us in our behavior. How much it influences us is the discriminatory factor we're talking about. Because in the puppetry aspect, world wars, fires, poverty, terrible things happening to people, wars, etc., etc. If we get involved in that in our heads and in our emotions, those invisible wires are creating a reaction within us that we output in our behavior. And so all of a sudden you're yelling at someone or something and you don't know why. But all these things have built up behind that veil that has been created over time between what I call the animal man and the human aspect that we're growing into, the spiritual person that is also within us, as well as the animal aspect. So what we're trying to do is tear that veil down or disintegrate it or gently cut it open into pretty patterns. We can do that too. But I think that allows us a certain creative aspect that we have as individuals, as human beings on this earth plane. We can be distinguishingly creative, whether it's songwriting, whether it's acting, whether it's introducing yourself to the world in a manner of which you are not only received but celebrated.
Hmm. That another aspect to that veil, that which is hidden. Um, I think the veil in this aspect is a key, like a literal key. You have a key and you can turn the lock, you can open a door. And we've had many different broadcasts in spaces. We've had broadcasts here where we spoke about, say, cancer or diabetes or the supply of money, even. And so when we're focused on the that which is a limitation, okay, because an illness would be, kind of sets you down for a while or could literally take your life. Um, these aspects of where are our thoughts going to? If there's something that you're trying to overcome, then the worst thing in the world you can do is focus on those aspects and then claim it as yours. It just makes it so much more difficult in order to get through it. You know, government, even like those in power, they're doing this. Both sides of the aisle, all aisles, whatever. The point is when we truly focus on that, we're solidifying it. It's very, please understand, this is, wrapping our heads around it, because it almost sounds like it's an oxymoron, right? Oh no, we've got to talk about this, we've got to do that, we've got to solve this, but nothing's getting solved. Why? Because for the most part, the people who are in charge of bringing all the ills, the discontent, the discord to the mass population, if, for instance, you're really looking at change, then send those individuals, some love. Even the ones that irritate you terribly, right? Like completely off a political spectrum, right? But send them love. Ask that perhaps their heart be open or their minds be open, because when they can come together and when we can bring that form of equality, and again, sometimes it is good to talk because we can hopefully therefore learn to understand other aspects. But when we're only in there in a vacuum, in this bubble, and listening to nothing but an echo chamber, what if our thoughts are there? What do you think we're going to create? More of the same. Nothing is going to change. It's the exact same aspect of the word fight. Whether it's on a political or, fighting cancer, why fight it? Eradicate it, heal it, eliminate it. One more person comes up to me and says, vote for me and I'll fight for you. I'm going to whack them upside the head with a proverbial frying pan, metaphorically speaking. But think about it. Why? Why would I vote for anyone to go fight for me? I can fight my own damn battles. Okay, but how about being the solution? Wrap your head around that aspect, because it allows for that self-governance, which is a major, major thing. We can always get pulled into a fight and argument and discontent and limitations. And the moment you do that, you've just given your power away to someone. Why? Why would you do that? I mean, logically, rationally, why would anyone choose to do that? If that's what floats your boat, then go for it. But then and only then, like my mother said, if you've made your bed, you get to sleep in it. So
let's do a little bit of algebra. Veil, or X equals Y. X being the veil, Y being discontent. X equals Y. All right, so then we ask the question, why, W-H-Y, not the letter Y, why would it do that? Why does the veil create the discontent? Why? Because it limits us. We allow it to limit us instead of being that creative self that say, oh, I have a concern for the wars that are going on,
right.
or in Libya, the terrible flood they had that so many were passed. And the concern is fine because it's a recognition of what environment you're living in globally.
Yes.
And that's okay.
So you don't have your head in the sand.
That's okay as long as you're able to discriminate and differentiate those experiences other is having from your own personal power. And what causes discontent is being unable to express that power because you're allowing this concern to become a dynamic which more or less controls and highly influences your behavior.
And so it's really like, there's an off button for that merry-go-round. And the aspect, because Paul, we were going to speak about and bring, show the connection with Stoicism and that aspect of spirituality. And Stoicism is that part of that philosophy, that logic and that reason to help gain that governance of self-control, self-regulation for the emotional component. And so where we're tying the two kind of together is because in spirituality, it's like where we place our focus. You know, where the focus is, attention goes. Okay, where our attention is, the focus goes, the energy goes, and that's what gets created. In Stoicism, it is that aspect of recognizing that we're those emotional components we do have. And again, we are being triggered. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't walk into a smoke filled room and come out smelling like a rose. The energies are out there. It's in the earth's crust, it's in our atmosphere, from all of these random thoughts. And you get a couple hundred people in a room or in uh, a what, like a community center, and everybody's boo-hooing about something. Well, guess what? You're just increasing that amount of energy out there. So it's like everybody and their brother just had a big old stogie. Okay. They're smoking not only that, but they're smoking weed, they're smoking cigarettes. We even got a few vapors and, vapes. And, we'll throw some, hey, how about a burning leaves too? All of that smoke is now encompassed in that room, and it really makes it difficult to breathe. And sometimes that breath of fresh air is very, very neutralizing, I shall say.
So perhaps you can illuminate us or enlighten us on those aspects of Stoicism
Yeah.
that might be those traits, let me say, or attributes of Stoicism that help a person move through life with grace and honor and integrity.
Oh, yes, definitely. I have a show on it actually, Becoming Stoic on Mondays.
Mhm.
And Benny and I are talking about the four virtues of Stoicism, which are courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. And I actually ran a poll on X, and temperance seems to be the one that's the most difficult for people to get in line with,
Could
and
you elucidate its definition?
yes, temperance is about moderation. It's about only utilizing what you actually need versus what you want. You want a big house, but you need shelter. You know,
Mhm.
so a nice little house will do. You may want a big fancy car, but you need to be able to get to from point A to point B. So maybe a bike, a bus, a small car. You don't need the wealth. Again, wealth is something that everybody wants, but do you truly need it? Do you truly need it?
Mhm.
So these are the things that we look at, and a Stoic lives by these four virtues. And they kind of coincide with spirituality when you're looking at courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance all together. And when you live by that, you're looking at self. And this is
Yeah.
where the things that, um, when you look at spirituality, spirituality is about serving self and not being self serving. Stoicism is the same, it's about serving self and not being self serving.
Mhm.
So, you have to recognize what you do and what you can control. If you have no power over it, you have no control over it, why waste the energy with it?
Yeah.
Only deal with what you can control at that time. And then
Yeah.
the emotional aspect of it, Stoics, a big misconception is that Stoics don't have any emotions. No, Stoics are full of emotion.
Yeah.
And that's why we have Stoicism, to learn how to control those emotions. Instead of getting angry and reacting, we take a step back and we hold that back and we try to respond in a calm, cohesive manner, and we try to come to a conversation in good faith. And there,
So
So,
that would be a
so
matter of resolving the veil.
yes,
yes,
and that aspect where, for instance, if we can maintain that emotional component and say there's a few things that really have to be discussed, we may be on one side or the other, but in order to come together, once that emotional aspect gets triggered, it's like it's therefore haywire. Because if even you can attribute this in your own life at some point in time, whether it's with a boss or a loved one, and you're having an argument, and everybody's doing this at each other. You did this, da, 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 da. Well, neither side's listening to the other when those emotions and that emotional energy is highly, highly charged, especially in a, let's just say, a negative connotation. Um, it's like wait until count to 10, maybe count to 10 days, okay, 3 days, whatever, where you can sit back, reground, get your faculties about you, because once those chemical hormones are raging through our bodies, our intelligence levels really decline. I mean, go look it up. You can, whatever research you'd like to do, but they, even in the military will train their recruits, whether for the Navy SEALs or the Rangers, that part of fear, which also carries a resemblance to that aspect of anger, the chemical hormones. And there are mechanisms in order to quiet that so that you can think more clearly to get out of a situation. So what we're just trying to do is we're just trying to bring in and put in a couple of different little components here and there. Perhaps maybe somebody can latch onto it and say, "Hey, man, yeah, this sounds good. How do I gain that freedom?" Okay, how do I? Everybody speaks about freedom all the time, and yet very few people truly know what freedom really is. And the freedom is not, holding and standing within our own power and not constantly giving it away. The moment you step into an argument or a fight, you've just lost. You've just given your power away. And so, Lee, I was going to ask you, just so that we can kind of tie these two things together, how would you say that, like spirituality, understanding ourselves, within our own power, and that of stoicism, what would be those connecting pieces, for
As a
instance?
condensed version, because everybody spoke very eloquently uh, concerning many different aspects. But basically, if we recognize life as a gift, that's what causes us and allows us to breathe on this earth plane. Life. That is the spiritual aspect. Whereas, as Paul was speaking about, Stoicism is the living aspect. We're qualifying life is what we're doing. We used the word qualification last time.
Mm-hmm.
And in qualifying life, we have to have certain attributes that attend to the livingness that we are going through each and every minute, second, day, period, years.
Wow. Okay, so spirituality would be life, and stoicism would be livingness.
Correct.
Or living.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
And that's why I love both of them.
Yeah.
That's again. I've always referred to not always. I've followed quite a few religions, studied quite a few philosophical beliefs, and I've I'd say probably the last 2 decades I've called myself an atheist. And recently I attached spiritual to that, a spiritual atheist, because I don't believe in an all knowing, all powerful creator of all things, God. Okay. I do believe that there is energy and power out there that I have no knowledge of, that I am a part of, and I am connected to. And that's where the spirituality comes in, where I feel like, Lee Two Hawks and Shadowfox here, I feel like I am connected to them. There's an energy between us. And that for me is spirituality. That is something that I can't explain, but I know it's there. And that goes to a greater picture of the universe of being connected to everything. And then,
Okay, and the term synergy in that energy would be the combination of our efforts in response to each other.
yes, yes. And then that's where the stoicism for me comes in, because I have to interact with everybody no matter who I encounter. And I don't know the exact quote, but it's from Marcus Aurelius and all that. We don't have to like everybody, but we do have to tolerate everybody because we are all here together. We're all connected in some way or some form. So we have to learn how to live with each other in this life that is a gift.
You know, there's a few things, and I'm just going to make a mention on it. There's, for instance, many of the schools have a no tolerance policy for whether it be, fighting or this or that or bullying. But yet there's no tolerance, but it's still being done. So obviously, there's still something that is not um, uh, resolved, truly. And so when we specifically state that this absolutely positively will not be tolerated, but yet we are to assume that with stoicism, there is a form of tolerance for another individual, tolerance for their actions. These are the things that when we recognize and we can be centered within our own seat of power, within our own wherewithal, without being stimulated from all these other things, we'll still come back to the major impetus of love, compassion, integrity. You can throw another one in there
Well,
if you like.
allow me to just kind of piggyback on what
Yeah.
you said, if
Yeah.
I may. All right. In the resolution of certain components of our emotional status we don't like, my term and my experience, which I have had myself do, is not to bury it. It's like working with some chemical that's dangerous for you. The effects are not immediate. But 40 years down the line, all of a sudden you have cancer or dementia.
Mhm.
The same thing with bearing emotion. It's going to come back and bite you. My term and what I worked at very diligently, because I wouldn't be here, maybe that's a good thing too, if I hadn't attended to the integration, that all these experiences I've had, I have integrated. They're mine.
Mhm.
I went through,
You earned them.
and then yes, I earned them. And so it is my design to use those things as tools to any future event in my life. Because in doing what I learned was, in doing some of the things I was doing, I was hurting other people as well as myself. And I didn't like that. I didn't want to attend to that. So I didn't bury it, but I said, okay, I'm going to integrate all these experiences that are giving me bad behavior and create that persona that allows me to be free with very limited limitations. I think we can't get away totally from limitations, but we certainly can qualify them and limit them. Now, as an example of that, when I was 6 years old, I don't know where this came from. I had watched a movie, I think it was in Africa, with all the poverty and the tribal wars that were going on at that time. And it just made me ill. And I went outside on the lawn of this foster care home I was living in, and I shook my fist at God at that time. That's what it was called. And that's what I had been exposed to. I shook my fist at God and I says, why are you allowing this? That's a 6-year-old. Who is that person? I don't know. He just appears somewhere underneath every experience. So I want to bring that person back, that caring person, not that caused the discontent that I was displaying, but to find an answer within myself that I will do what I can to help one by one, individual by individual, community by community, and together. And I'm a big one on unity and eventually on synthesis.
Oh yeah. Now, and again, here's something, and just consider for all the listeners and everything. What is it in your life that you may recognize as discontent? Something uncomfortable, something that perhaps infuriates you, something that is absolutely discordant energy, arguing, fighting, anger, frustration, perhaps feeling lonely. What are these things within your own life that you could literally just, I mean, usually you ask somebody and it's, come on, they'll give you a dissertation on, how bad something happened at work and everything else. I'm going to say this again. The moment we continue to wrap our thoughts around all those things that are let's just say disingenuine, discordant, dishonest,
Dismaying.
dismaying, all of these things, the moment you truly create your focus back onto it, you're solidifying it, and you will create and see more of it in your life. This is how the universe works. I'm sorry, this is law. If you're focused upon something, the universe is saying, thinking, oh, well, this is what this person really would, this is what interests this person. This is what they'd like to see more of. So, abracadabra, bam, there you go. And you will see more of it. And you can laugh at me if you will. Okay? Laugh at me if you will. Think of a color of a car that is not very common, perhaps yellow or purple, for instance. And
Turquoise.
huh? Or turquoise. Okay. So pick one of those colors and say, how many of those cars will you be able to pick out in a week? You could have went an entire year and maybe noticed one yellow car because it was so bright yellow and it had black, you know, black details, so it looked like a freaking bumblebee or a hornet. Okay. But think about it. If you put that out and do this as a little mind experiment, or think of something in nature like a shape, like a sweetheart or a feather or something. How many, if you are thinking about it, will that appear to be in your life? You will see, I mean, if you've only seen one yellow car in a year and you put that thought forward, you may end up seeing 20 of them in a week. And you're going to go, I never knew there were so many yellow cars there. Why? Because you were telling Creator, you were telling the universe, hey, I'd like to check out and see how many yellow cars I can see in a week. Voila, there you go. That shows and gives validation for that aspect of where we are really putting our focus. So if there is something in your life that you're really unhappy about, whether it be political, whether it be in a medical field, whether it be at work, anything, shift the focus shift the focus and surround that discordant note with a little bit of harmony, a little bit of love, and you will see major, major changes in your life.
I'm going to respond to that. First, I want to say to Shark fans over on Twitter Live. Um, Twitter Live has existed for a while. Most people didn't know that you could do live videos on Twitter. Now they advertise it up in the Spaces bar. They highlight it in pink instead of purple. So when somebody has a live going, you can actually click on it. So thank you for that question, Sharks fans. I appreciate that. And yes, you'll be seeing me every day now. Um, I, I remember when I was a kid and we would go on a trip. My mom and dad would be taking us to like St. Louis, Missouri or something like that. And my sister and I would be sitting in the back of the car and we would play a game called Slug Bug.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you see a Volkswagen,
Yep.
those little bugs and all that, you would slug the other person in the arm. Not that it's a good game because you're slugging somebody, but you would see so many more little
Yes.
Volkswagen bugs, and the reality is that as you grow a little bit older, you recognize that those bugs are always out there.
Oh, yeah.
They're always out there.
We
And
used to play, Paul. We used to play a game for. It was called Pedito, and it's when you have a car that only has one headlight. One of the lamps burned out, and towards the evening, when the lights come on, the first one starts the game. So you have an even draw. It's like, okay, heads up, we're gonna play, and then go for your destination, or when you get back home, you have to call it right then and there. But you'll be surprised how many peditos you can find in the evening. And we did this when we traveled all the way down to Texas, and let me tell you something. I think we were in the thousands. We stopped playing,
right.
stopped counting.
I bring this up for a reason, because this is where the Stoicism comes in, and this is the connection to spirituality, because both of us focus on nature, getting back in touch with nature.
Yep.
And for the Stoic, it's more about not just the beauty, but the cruelty that we see in nature, and you recognize that it's not really cruelty. It's just how nature is. And you start to see how powerful the wind is. You see how powerful water is. You start learning all of these different things. And of course, that comes back to the four virtues, and that's wisdom. You are learning what is out there, and you can apply that to yourself.
Okay, if we can understand, or if we can think of, or if we can believe any of those, that using the earth purging, which is what it is doing, but then we have to agree that there's a certain sentiency to the earth. All right. So let's say there's not. Let's just say that the way things are, perhaps human discontent is causing a lot of it, because it's an energy. And what causes things when that type of energy, either love or hatred or viciousness or kindness, these are all energies. But the total mass of 8 billion people hating and killing,
and what's wrong with the world,
and having these great, not concerns, but worries, virtual worries that make them ill physically, because there's nothing that's a limitation, it's a veil that surrounds them that they got to break through in order to see in absolute accuracy of what the world is really like. So if the world as a physical entity is purging itself, maybe we ought to take that as a lesson for ourselves. What can we do?
Hold on, I got a comment from Twitter Live. I used to play that game with my mom and dad, and that is at Karamia SG. Thank you for the comment and all that. And I believe she was either referring to my game of Slugbug or your game of Pedito. So yes.
Yeah, here's another thing. When you were speaking about even looking into nature and seeing sometimes what would be considered the viciousness of it, it isn't. It's just the flow of it.
Yes.
You can think of it this way. Many times I've come back to this because many of us have learned Darwin's theory of evolution. Okay, well, it was done by a male that kind of had a little bit of, I guess I would say, arrogance, only because I'm a female, a mother who nurtures, breastfed. Okay, let's just be very clear about this. When we take a look at Darwin's theory of evolution, the only thing that he was witnessing was a much larger scope of the path of least resistance. And again, this is where we have that human construct, right? Though that human idea that in order to validate what he was witnessing, he had to put the storyline behind it. But in essence, it is the path of least resistance. So with that, whatever we resist will persist. So if we're resisting like cancer, like let's fight cancer, that is a resistance. So then it's just going to persist. If we are constantly bashing about what everybody's done wrong through our governments and through the world in affairs, world affairs across the board, and that's all we're focused on. Well, it's just you're just going to have more of it because that's the resistance of it. And I think this is one of the hardest things that I try to get people to kind of wrap their head around for just a moment because it really does sound like an oxymoron. Well, I'm not going to bury my head in the sand. I got to speak out. Okay, well, if you're going to speak out, then be the solution of it. Then be the solution of it in your part of the world. You be the solution in your community. You can be that activist. Okay, so when things are going to hell in a handbasket real quick, why jump in the handbasket? Because that's where you're going to go, right? You can remove yourself a little bit. That part of detachment doesn't mean you don't care, doesn't mean anything. It's just you're not going to jump in the bucket with them. And so this way, you are free and clear to be able to create coming forward without that human constraint that Darwin put into his theory. Okay, it's very simple. The path of least resistance in the wild, like say a wolf pack or something like that. Do you think the wolf pack's gonna go after the big alpha male or the big alpha female? No, they're gonna go after the young. They're gonna go after the elderly or the sick. Why? Because it takes less energy and
Correct.
less about going after them. So think about it.
Yep. And I'm gonna throw a stoic perspective then on this because I'm gonna take what we learned from nature is that everything is a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of that cycle. So when
Yeah.
you apply that cycle to life, there is a birth and there is a death. And everybody, no matter who you are, you're in that line.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is in that line. Everybody is on that same path of life. Nobody is immortal. Nobody is living forever, okay, in this life that we have. Now, in the spiritual, that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It only changes form. It continues. There's a difference between spirituality and stoicism, okay? So, in this lifeline that we're in this line of life that we are in with everybody, wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
you want to get along with everybody in the line? Wouldn't you want, again, the path of least resistance? Don't you want to be in line with everybody loving and caring and being kind and helping each other in that line so that line of life is more enjoyable, more
Mhm.
pleasurable, more tolerable? The
Yeah.
loss.
Oh, I see some stuff on the board. Is there anything we should attend to?
Oh, there's a lot of things and all that. I can go way back up and all that. We had Diana who said, "Love is the focus, love is the wisdom, love is the peace."
Yeah.
We have from Twitch, Valve BTW. Hey, what's up? Hello, Valves. We have Diana who says, "Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% on how you deal with it."
Yep.
Absolutely. That falls under spirituality and stoicism.
Yep.
Um, Diane has something else on here that I wanted to put up. Um, let's see. Once you ask the question, keeping focus on it leads to me seeing the answer sometimes in the outer world because it's created and I'm not.
Ah, yes. I am. I am in this world, but I am not of it.
Right.
Uh,
Thus, this is getting true guidance from our own source energy.
yes.
Yes. Let me see if we got any more comments here on. Nope, nothing else on Twitter. So, yep.
Yeah. No. Diana definitely makes some really, really good points, and I just have to put a little comment out there that Diana is still suspended from the Twitter Xverse. So we do our space at 3:30, and yeah, so she's not going to be able to access it, which is such a shame. Um, because honestly, I mean, we can take a look at these things. This could be very, very much discontent. It could be all of these aspects. But what Diana has done is she shifted the focus from that, and she has stepped into the utilizing this time off for going within. Literally, she's journeying within.
Yes.
So, you know, I just have to make a mention that, I could even state, okay, I am I'm disheartened. I'm discontent with all these people that are on, holding spaces, and they're all, constantly rehashing all this stuff over and over and over again. And they don't realize that it's just making it grow stronger and a little more difficult to overcome. I could hold human view. But what I do is I bless them and say, well, they're just not aware. They think they are, but they're not aware of the grander scope, the grander picture. Why? Because they like to have a presence on, you know, the X verse and all of this. And so it gives them something to talk about. But I will ask you again, at what cost? Because there's many of us who are trying to reconcile and resolve through the veil, okay, the veil of energy, to kind of rewrite the ship a little bit. And they just keep going on and on and on. And that boulder just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So again, it is a choice. It truly is.
I want to give another example and all that because we talk about the repetitiveness of
Mhm.
things that provide nothing.
Exactly.
Have you ever read a book and then you put it up on the bookshelf and you experience life and you come back a week later, a month later, a year later, a decade later, and you read that book? And funny, you remembered it one way, but now this time there's something new, something different. And what you've done is you read a book with a certain mind thought, with a certain
Mm-hmm.
way of thinking, and you went out into the world and you grew. You acquired more wisdom, more experience, more processes of seeing things from the aspect of the observer, and you've applied that to your life. And then when you go back and you read that book, you're going to see it differently. It's not going to read the same. It's the
Yep.
exact same words.
Yes.
Nothing in the book has changed. Nothing. But why does it
Understood.
read differently? Because you have changed. So
Yes.
when you're going into these spaces, take the position of the observer. Sit back, listen, grow a little bit. Because then when you apply yourself to that conversation, you're
Yep.
going to have a different perspective. Because even though the words might be the same in that space over and over and over again,
Yep.
that conversation that you're having at the supermarket with your boss every day, or whatever the case is, if you step back into the position of observer and you
Yep.
allow yourself to grow, to
Yep.
see things from a different way of viewing it,
Yep.
that is how you grow, you become wiser, and down the road, you learn how to communicate with everybody else on some form of level.
Yeah, and I will say this: in nature, you can't stand in the same river twice.
Correct.
Okay, and I know Lee Two Hawks was going to.
No, I basically what I look for in a transitory state of which every human goes through. It's called evolution. All right. So that does happen, and we have evolved somewhere since the time of Cicero, since the time of Aristotle, since the time of even the 1800s, 1900s, etc. So you mentioned cycles a little while ago,
Mm-hmm.
and so my intent and it may help somebody else look at things differently, is to move out of the cycle into a spiral. Because as you're spiraling, everything that's happened has allowed you to grow up that twisting turn of the spiral until finally you reach that great space that we're all looking for.
Yes. And funny
Yes.
how
And not only that, but you know what the spiral allows you to do? To if you're looking at the center, say there's a line going straight up, like is it if it were a circular staircase, you're able to look at that from many different positions all the way up, and you get a different view.
yes.
Just
And
like
you know what's really funny and all that is when I go into the Stoic spaces, Stoic Bryce, and I love Bryce with all of my heart, and he talks about how all of these writings are like 2,000 years ago, and it's funny how they all are applicable today.
yes,
Okay, which means how have we evolved in the last 2,000 years psychologically, philosophically? Where have we grown? Because all these same things we're still dealing with today, and everyone thinks, but we have flat screen TVs and we have cell phones and we have all of this technology. Yeah, technologically we're advancing, but
well,
psychologically,
I could say with the philosophies and the teachings that come not only from that of Stoicism and that from the ancient mystery schools, there's accuracies in them. And the thing is that why we're still struggling in its comprehension, why we're still struggling in order to gain that equilibrium and that governance over self is because for eons we've been allowing the atmosphere of all of these thought forms and these human constructs and ideas and opinions. Okay, human opinions mean absolutely nothing when put up against a law. Okay, and many of the aspects from Stoicism actually fulfill
yes,
law. And the law I'm speaking about is the cosmic, that esoteric and metaphysical understanding behind them, the cosmic, universal, solar, spiritual, and natural law. And so when we take a look at this entire aspect, the number one, we can gain our freedom. And we can gain our freedom by understanding who we are, the
yeah,
I am presence within us, and how to work with it. Yet, that's not been discussed very much.
Well,
right,
let me say this. I personally believe that technology is a reflection of our growth.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it is the potential of our growth at certain times. Right now, we can speak globally
Mm-hmm.
with this system, and who knows what it's going to be in 30 years. Perhaps then it will be with our minds, telepathy. Who knows? I don't know.
right, right.
But to me, it's slow, it shows our growth in certain manners, of which we are somewhat impugning by denying the fact that this is humanity moving forward.
Right.
If only our emotions could catch up with our growth, we'd be in pretty good shape.
Well, that's yes and no. And here's the perspective that I was trying to go to and all that with this
Oh, sorry.
is that it's so easy to become corrupted. It's so easy to say, the hell with that. I'm doing this because I want to. It's so easy to do the things that we shouldn't be doing. The difficulty comes in trying to be just all the time. The difficulty comes in trying to be courageous all the time, to show that temperance all the time, to gain that wisdom all the time. It's very, very difficult. We don't want to work at something. We just want to take it as it comes and have fun with it, and who cares who we hurt in the process as long as I get mine.
Yep.
That is easy to do.
Hey,
The
Paul.
difficulty is being good. Go on. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, actually, Bryce actually spoke on this in one of his Stoic episodes. That aspect of being, complacent. Like, just here we go. We're just moseying on along. I'm in my comfort zone. Who really cares? Like you said, that challenge, challenging yourself. Well, yeah, we can. Yeah, it gets really. We can become stuck within this format. And I will say this, love, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, it does makes it a little difficult when you got a really rowdy neighbor. See, he's my neighbor. But how do you love someone that irritates the shit out of you? I mean, really, like, and you don't really know them. It's like 5 minutes here or there, and the apples are falling on the lawn, and yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? When you become that being of love, when you become love, guess what? That is the question of how truly becomes a mute point.
Well, I think the whole idea is I think there must be a standard of which your four attributes attend to in the Stoic manner have to be set in order for us to have guidelines. Oh, I kind of stepped to the left or I stepped to the right, so I missed the straight and narrow. Because of my guidelines, I kind of maybe overdid or underdid whatever I'm looking at. And so it's just an idea without something stabilized, we go into obliquity. What is obliquity? Is losing our moral conduct.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I do everything with love, period. Doesn't matter. Even if somebody's sitting there calling me names, I will still have the conversation with them in love.
Paul, I just have to remind the both of you guys of what happens in the green room before this space.
All with love.
You name?
It's all with love.
Yes, it is all done with love. I do recognize that. It's just a little shady love.
Well, yeah, but we recognize your strength to hold up.
Oh, yes. There's no discontent here. But please.
It's never the intent to cause discontent.
No,
Correct.
it's just to get me off my butt, right?
Yeah.
But listen, we're going to be holding our Space Journey Within at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time on Twitter X. I'm still trying to wrap my head around and
The
get the
X,
word
yeah.
for X. Yeah, the X universe. Anyway, I do hope you guys will be able to join us there. It's going to be this one could be very, very different. Seriously, because Diana's not there.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, but she's there with us in love, and that's all that
Oh,
matters. Honestly, I would love to have her there, but I know that her heart is there with us, and that's good enough for me for right now. I'm going to let everybody know that tomorrow I have Who Wrote the Bill. So please.
Oh, yeah.
Friday, the Vellum with T. Paul Wolfrick. We're probably going to delve more into the mental health aspect when it comes to writing. Saturday, Democratic Philosophy. Jeremy and I still don't know exactly what we're going to talk about yet, but we are going to talk about something. And then, of course, then on Monday, we have Benny, and we are going to continue on the 4 virtues. We're going to be going in and discussing courage. That's going to be the next one. And then today we have, after this show, we have, hold on, I got one of those phone calls coming in that I'm going to have to, all right, there we go. Anyways, today at 11, which is in right now, the Stoic Space with Bryce and Benny. So catch that on Twitter. And at 3:30, is that Eastern time? 3:30,
yeah.
12:30 Pacific. Journey Within with Shadowfox, and I will be there, so you can catch us there. And remember, everyone, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Meow.